Today we're going to talk about adding fractions. It's a quick review to go over what you should have learned in 6th grade. So we'll go through common denominators, uncommon denominators, and then also the regrouping and mixed numbers. So we'll start with a common denominator. We're going to do 3/7 plus 5/7. And I like to line up my fractions one on top of the other because I think it's easier, especially when you move to finding common denominators. If our denominators are the same, we'll go ahead and just add the numerators. So 3 plus 5 is 8. You never add your denominators. Your denominator stays the same. So sevenths. Okay, and so I have an answer of 8/7, which is correct, but it's not in simplest form. Okay, and we always put our answers in simplest form. So to put this in simplest form, I need to divide because my numerator is bigger than my denominator. So I'm going to divide 7 into 8. It goes in one time. This is going to be, let me get another color pen. This is going to be my whole number. And then your remainder is actually going to be your numerator. So 1 times 7 is 7. I have a remainder of 1. So this becomes my numerator. And my denominator stays the same. So my final answer would be 1, my whole number, 1, my numerator, and my denominator doesn't change, it's 7. So 1 and 1/7. Let's try one that has different denominators, but no having to regroup. This is what we call regrouping right here, where I had to make it into a simpler mixed number. So I'm going to do 1/2 plus 1/3. Okay, so a lot of people like to try and add this and say that the answer is 2/5, and I just added it. Well, no, that's not correct because we cannot add these without a common denominator. Okay, can't add without a common denominator. It's not allowed. So, got to do that first. And I'm going to go ahead and rewrite this to the side just so you can see kind of how I would set up my problem. So 1/2 plus 1/3. And the best way to find a common denominator is to find the least common multiple of both numbers. Okay, so with 2, I'm going to say the first one would be 2, and then 4, 6, 8, 10, that should be plenty. So I'm finding the least common multiple. Least common multiple is 3, 6. As soon as I get that, I have my least common multiple, and that's what my denominator should be. So I'm going to make my new denominator 6. And then if I change the denominator, I have to change the numerator. So to get from 2 to 6, I multiplied by 3. So I have to do the same to the numerator. 1 times 3 is 3. To get from 3 to 6, I multiplied by 2. I have to do the same to the numerator. 1 times 2 is 2. So now that my denominators are the same and I've changed my numerators, I can add. 3 plus 2 is 5. My denominator stays the same. So my answer would be 5/6. Now we're going to try a problem that has different denominators, but we have to regroup the answer. So I'm going to do 7/8 plus 1/4. Alright, and the best way, again, to find your common denominator is to do your least common multiple. And this one's pretty easy. So my least common multiples of 4 are going to be 4 and then 8. With 8, the first one's going to be 8, so that's going to be my least common multiple. It's not a big deal if I picked, let's say, 16, because it would also be a multiple of both these numbers. That's fine. You're just going to have to simplify more later. So we always want to pick the smallest one we can. So I'm going to make my new denominator 8. Now, to get from here to here, I only multiplied by 1. Nothing really changed. So I'm going to do that same thing to the top. 7 times 1 is 7. That fraction stayed the same. Here's where the change was. Times 2, 1 times 2 is 2. So now I have 7/8 plus 2/8. And my answer would be 9/8. Again, because that numerator is bigger than the denominator, I have to simplify it. 8 goes into 9 one time. I have a remainder of 1. This becomes my numerator. My denominator stays the same, so my final answer would be 1 and 1/8. For our last problem, we're going to go ahead and flip the paper over, and we're going to do a mixed number. So I have 1 3/4 plus 3 2/3. And the biggest problem I tend to see with these kind of problems is we forget about the whole number, which we don't want to do. So first thing I still have to do is make a common denominator. So my multiples of 3, 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, that should be far enough. Usually if you go 5 or 6 out, you should get it. 4 is going to be 4, 8, 12, and there it is. So I've still got my whole number, and now I'm going to have denominators of 12. So now I need to go and make my numerators change. 4 times 3 is 12. 3 times 3 is 9. 3 times 4 is 12. 2 times 4 is 8. Now when I add, and I'm going to bring my problem over here just a little bit, I'm going to add 9 and 8, and I'll get 17 twelfths. 1 plus 3 is 4. So now I have an answer. Again though, my fraction is not simplified completely. So this is where we tend to see the trickiness of forgetting to go back and add that whole number in. Because what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this, let me get another different color. I'm going to take it and I'm going to go ahead and simplify this part first. So 12 goes into 17 one time, and you have a remainder of 5. Okay, so I would have 1 and 5 twelfths. Another way to do that, just on a side note, would be to say 17 twelfths minus 12 twelfths, because this is equal to 1 whole. 17 twelfths minus 12 twelfths would be 5 twelfths, so you would then have 1 whole and 5 twelfths. Just a different way if that's easier for you. But now what I have to do, and this is the part people forget, is I need to take this 1 and 5 twelfths and add it back to the 4. So now I have 4 plus 1 and 5 twelfths. This is gone because that is now this. So 4 plus 1 is 5. 0 plus 5 twelfths is 5 twelfths. So my final answer would be 5 and 5 twelfths. Hopefully this has helped to jog your memory on adding fractions. If you have any questions, please come in for tutorials.